Upgrade your game day with Team Toyota. Headed to the practice fields or the stadium? We have a great selection of new trucks and SUVs to choose from. And with our lineup of over 200 certified used Toyotas, you can find the right fit for you or for your budget. 75 used cars under $20K. Don't get stuck on the sidelines. Our service centers are here to get you back on the road in no time. Visit one of our 3 locations in Princeton, Langhorne, or Glen Mills, or online at teamtoyota.net.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. Corey Simon and Spencer McKercher here from the lobby at the Hilton Anatole in Dallas. You can hear Silent Night playing here in the background. Nice little seasonal music. But the Phillies checked an item off their list, a big one on Monday, signing Jordan Romano, the former Blue Jays closer, to a 1-year contract. It's reportedly worth $8.5 million. He can earn $9 million through incentives if he makes 60 appearances. But this was a need for the Phillies. They lost Jeff Hoffman and Carlos Estevez to free agency, and they bring in one of the the best available relievers, a guy who was not on the market when the offseason began, but then he was non-tendered by the Blue Jays after an injury-plagued 2024 season.
Yeah, man. November 22nd, non-tendered there. So, kind of just hit the free agent market now, and obviously spent 2024 on and off the IL, had the long IL stint, then ended up getting surgery on his elbow. We did talk to Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson. They both said it almost kind of sounded like Romano could have pitched at the end of the season last year. Not the case, though, with the Blue Jays not being as well as they thought their season was going to go. But, yeah, Romano comes in here, man, and it sounds like Dave didn't really say he was going to be the closer, but he didn't want to obviously put that out there. But I'm looking forward to a healthy Jordan Romano, dude, going into his 32-year-old season. 2021, 2023 was dominant, right? Yeah. Held hitters to 172, had a very low ERA, sub-3 ERA, and was kind of that dominant closer in Toronto. And hopefully we see that here in Philadelphia in 2025.
Yeah, the Phillies are not going to name him their closer. They didn't promise him that role, but Dave Dombrowski did say that Romano's going to have plenty of ninth-inning opportunities. It's similar to when they got Carlos Estevez last summer, where they didn't want to anoint him the closer, but he quickly became the closer. And for a guy like Romano, if he seizes the opportunity, pitches well in spring training, pitches well early in the season, could quickly become his job. The rest of the pitchers in that mix for the Phillies late in games, it's going to be Orion Kirkering, Matt Strahm, Jose Alvarado. So that's the 4 guys, 2 lefties, 2 righties. And we asked Dave Dombrowski, could this be the only high-profile bullpen addition? And he pretty much said, yeah, we like the guys that we have, mentioning those 4 high-leverage guys and then adding in Tanner Banks and Jose Ruiz. Personally, I'm a little skeptical because even if you include those 4, Banks and Ruiz, that's still an incomplete bullpen, and you don't really know what you have out of Alvarado. They haven't used Tanner Banks in high leverage. Jose Ruiz was impressive last season, but that kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know if you can rely on that in 2025. So, the Phillies might be looking at relievers with high upsides, high ceilings, but I don't know that they're going to go out and re-sign a Jeff Hoffman or Carlos Estevez now. And when you look at the contract terms, they might, if this works out, if he is healthy and pitches up to his capability, you might have him for 1/5 the cost of a Estevez or Hoffman, guys who might be looking at $40 to $50 million contracts.
It's crazy, right? When Dave said that, it kind of took me off. That's a little bit of a surprise because I thought Jeff Hoffman, had a strong chance of returning to the Phillies. Not saying he's not. Dave didn't rule that out either. But just the way he kind of said it was kind of surprising. But yeah, you go out and get a steal on Jordan Romano for only $8 million a year. The arbitration number was about $7.5 million, yeah. Right? Obviously, he didn't make arbitration. That's why he got untendered. So he didn't go through that process with Toronto. But yeah, it's a steal, I think. And if you can kind of throw another 1-year deal at these guys, we've seen Dave Dombrowski do that over the last few seasons. It's worked out. Some have not. Some have. The Jeff Hoffman deal worked out to a point for now. But yeah, there's no point. There's a lot more positive upside.
Yeah, and when you sign a guy to a 1-year deal like this, it gives him incentive to perform because he wants to go make some more money next offseason. And, it protects the Phillies in case it doesn't work out as well. I mean, you use the word steal. If he is healthy and pitches like he has, then yeah, it's a steal. Yeah. I mean, the risk is that he might not be as healthy. I mean, right. The Phillies feel good about his medicals. That's what they said. They saw a video of him. They put him through a physical on Monday in Philadelphia, and they feel comfortable with where he is. The surgery he had, it was not like a Tommy John type surgery. It was arthroscopic surgery on the elbow. He had 2 quarter zone shots earlier in the summer, but as Spence mentioned, like prior to that, this was one of the best closers in baseball. Like there's been all this talk about Ryan Helsley as a potential trade target.
Right.
If Jordan Romano didn't get hurt in 2024, he'd be of that same ilk as a Ryan Helsley.
For sure.
This checks one item off the Phillies list. They wanted, to add offense probably in the outfield, and they definitely wanted to add a high leverage bullpen arm. They got one of those accomplished here. The winter meeting's still 2 more days here. I don't know if they're going to be able to make any more additions here, but you'd figure they're laying some groundwork. The market's also moving a little. We saw after Juan Soto signed on, what was that, Sunday night, like things are starting to progress here in the outfield market and the bullpen market, because it's not just like that. There are other outfielders and other players who draw more interest now. It's also teams that have all this money now that they didn't spend on Juan Soto. Like, I don't know if the Blue Jays are going to go spend $500 million this offseason. They're probably not.
Right.
Same with the Red Sox. But okay, even if they spend $100 million, that's a huge amount of money that they can allocate to different players. So as Dave Dombrowski said, there were some agents who didn't even want to talk until Juan Soto came off the board. For that reason, there's so much more money available now in the marketplace.
Again, one of those comments that kind of took me off guard. I was like, oh wow, it's surprising. It kind of goes to show where the market is. And I just thought it was funny, of course. Like, we're down here. We just get down here. We're here for the winter meetings, first day, kind of walk around, get to know everybody. And, of course, the Phillies make the first move of the winter meeting to a point right on Monday morning here. So, man,
I'm glad they did, though, because, it's better to beat the alternative of waiting around. And I've been saying all along that I just felt like they needed to make one move to kind of just unlock the rest of the offseason, to give us a clearer picture of what direction they're moving in. There's been all this talk about, can they trade Alec Boehm? Might they shop Ranger Suarez, Nick Castellanos, stuff like that? And I don't know if that's going to happen. The Phillies do feel good about the offense and lineup they have. I know it might feel strange to hear that because they flamed out so spectacularly at the end of the season, but they were a really good offense from April through September. And the 4 games at the end of the season, while they matter more than everything that preceded it, you don't pay more attention to that and just totally throw out everything that came before it. So
exactly.
The Phillies are not going to make a move just for the sake of making a move.
Right.
And with guys like Boehm and Suarez, you only trade them if you're bringing in equal value. And if not, you don't. A guy they've been connected to heavily is Garrett Crochet, the White Sox pitcher. But if you're the White Sox, you probably don't want Alec Boehm because he's close to free agency. You want young prospects. So there's still a possibility the Phillies could accomplish that, make a splash for a Crochet, but you'd think it would take probably Justin Crawford, Andrew Painter, Aiden Miller. They might ask for all those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not saying you're going to give up all of them or even 2 of them, but you have to factor in what other teams are going to want, not just what you want.
Exactly. And I feel like if Dave, when offered the White Sox, Boehm, Crawford, maybe throw in Abel in there as well, the White Sox sounded like they kind of hung up. But then if the White Sox GM comes back and offers Dan, says we want Miller, Painter,
it's a different.
We're also hanging up.
And the thing is too is that at the deadline, the Phillies had heavy interest in Crochet and may have been close to getting a deal done. But now there's a lot more teams you'd figure that are going to be in the mix. And the thing about him is that he's a guy who would fit for every team because he's only making, I think, $2 million this year. So he's at a point in his career where he's still inexpensive, Crochet. That's why he has so much trade value. It's not just that you're getting an ascending pitcher. You're getting an ascending pitcher who's not making that much money yet.
Right. And he's 25, 26, right? Yeah. And you solidify that also kind of that spot that McAble hasn't been able to make that jump yet. But Crochet, you throw somebody in there.
And there's also this guy, Roki Sasaki, who was posted, as the winter meetings began, he was posted. And it doesn't sound like he's going to sign until the international signing period begins on January 15th. The Phillies are one of, a handful or 10 teams that are thought to be in the mix for him. It's an interesting situation because every team can offer Sasaki pretty much the same amount of money. It's not like one can swoop in and give him $150 million. They can only offer what they're allotted in these bonus pools, which are finite amounts. It's believed that the Dodgers, have the inside track.
Per usual.
The Dodgers, with it's the truth. Because there's a big Asian community and they're able to welcome these players in. But that would be another exploration that would be worthwhile for the Phillies. They looked into Yoshinobu Yamamoto last year because, again, it's a free agent who has a lot of upside and he's really young. Yeah. Sasaki's even younger. So
exactly,
this guy who could potentially grow with you, protect you against losing some guys down the road. Wheeler and Nola aren't going to be here forever. But again, that's probably something that happens next month as opposed to this week or even before the holidays.
And in everything that I've read, it's almost there's some of these scouts are higher on him than they were Yamamoto.
Yeah.
You throw in somebody like that into a rotation that is, again, growing in age, and besides Christopher Sanchez, obviously, Ranger Suarez could be on the trading market. You throw in Sasaki in there, and who knows? That'd be
plus
great.
Suarez is a free agent after the year, so the Phillies got to be thinking about it's solutions that don't only work this year but beyond.
Exactly. Speaking of that fifth spot too, right? Dave Dombrowski brought that up, and I believe the exact quote today was "wide open."
Yeah.
It is wide open. He listed some prospects that in spring training will have a shot.
Yeah.
listed that Taijuan Walker is in phase 2 of his workout program. I mean, what are your thoughts, dude, based off Dave's comments? Can we see a young guy like Crochet?
They have a bunch of guys like Moises Crochet who came over in the Soto trade, and they have Mick Abel, who's added to the 40-man roster to protect him from the Rule 5 draft this week. There's Seth Johnson, who came over from the Orioles. I also think the Phillies are probably going to end up signing a couple guys for depth purposes. Like when they signed Spencer Turnbull last year, it wasn't a heralded signing. It was an inexpensive, low-risk, medium to high reward, and it worked out in the first half of the season before Turnbull was injured. And I think that you're going to see several signings like that, minor league deals, maybe like 1 year, $2 million, $3 million, something like that.
Similar to Colby Allard last year.
Because you want to bring in a bunch of guys and hope that one sticks. Right. If more than one sticks, great. But if you want to bring in a bunch of guys and hope that one sticks, we saw down the stretch last season what the worst case scenario looks like in the number 5 spot, where the Phillies were giving up like 10 runs a game when they're in the center fifth starter out there. You said Taijuan Walker, he's still in the picture. The Phillies haven't gone through this offseason workout program to try to increase his velocity. They're doing more things with him than just throwing and to try to increase the velocity. That's why you've heard about this weighted ball program and like the core strength. And it really just all comes down to, spring training. Is he throwing 87 or is he throwing 93? And if he's throwing 87, well, I don't know if that's going to work. It's probably not going to work, but he's under contract either way. You're paying him either way. You might as well roll with him. You know? People have talked about like, okay, maybe it's a distraction if you bring Walker to spring training. You have to answer all the questions, but I don't know. This is a veteran group. I don't think they're going to be too distracted by stuff like that.
Of course not, dude. And they said, I think that's why they kind of gave it right away. And Dave Dombrowski, Rob Thompson talked at that end of the season press conference. They threw that out there right away that he's going to go through this program. He will be in spring training, whether fans like that or not. And again, like you said, I don't think this veteran-led group is going to care. Right. If Taijuan Walker people are calling for his job and saying, hey, you lost it. I don't think that's going to be a problem, especially come spring training, but that's still a far way away. We'll hopefully get an update after he hits phase 2 or phase 3 of these trainings. And hopefully it ramps back up to the Taijuan Walker that, was a few years ago. And hopefully it's not an age decline thing that we're all kind of thinking that it is.
Yeah. And the number 5 spot, it matters, man. I mean, it doesn't matter in the postseason, but it matters. There's 32 times you have to send them out in the regular season.
I feel like it's come back to bite them in the butt the last 2 or 3 seasons too, right?
And I asked something I asked Dave Dombrowski this afternoon was, with the Mets bringing in Soto and the Braves, they're going to have Strider and Acuna back, and they're probably not going to have, as many injuries and down years from players as they had last year. Like, do you feel increased pressure to get things done this offseason to improve the team? Because now this is solidly a 3-team race. Now, I still think the Mets have a lot of holes. I mean, beyond
talk about that.
After that 4 spot in the lineup, they have holes in the rotation, but it's not a shoe-in like the Phillies are going to win the NL East just because they did last year. I don't know that it matters a ton to them if they get the bye again, after what happened last year.
It clearly hasn't worked the last 3 years with the teams that won the division.
Yeah, so Dave Dombrowski doesn't really change the calculus. The Phillies felt all along that Soto might end up with the Mets anyway, and if it wasn't Soto ending up with the Mets, it might have been like Corbin Burns and Teoscar Hernandez and one other guy. So they have a ton of money to spend. Steve Cohen has all those billions of dollars, $20 billion plus, but
and like Rob said, he had, or like Dave said, he had a gauge right away. That's kind of why they didn't meet with him, because it was like they knew it was going to happen. They knew that the money was going to be, like, what's the word we used, unfathomable this morning. So they had a gauge that they didn't even.
It would have been a waste of time, honestly. Like, unless you were willing to offer $750 million, it would have been a waste of time. Like, the Red Sox reportedly offered 15 years, $700 million, and that wasn't even close to what he took. So. I mean, that kind of tells you what it is. It's crazy money, man. It's a lot for one player, but good for Juan Soto.
Good for Juan Soto, man. Good for Juan Soto.
I don't know. I'm glad that it's over with so that everything else can kind of open up. It's like a sigh of relief. Everybody can start diverting their attention to other players. We can start talking about other players,
Exactly. And finally get to worry about some of these tier 2 guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, so now, like, the best guy available is Alex Bregman, but we might have talked about this morning. I can't even remember. We've talked so much today, but Willie Adames signed for $182 million. Yes. If I'm Alex Bregman, I'm not signing for less than $210 million. Yep. And I could see that getting to like $250 to $300 million because, again, you have now these rich teams, Red Sox, Yankees, maybe like
the Blue Jays.
Maybe the Blue Jays, if they're still playing in that market, that have had all that money they were going to spend on Soto. They might allocate it to the second best position player free agent available.
Correct.
One last thing I wanted to bring up is that I asked Dave Dombrowski about Bryce Harper at first base today.
Yes, which good because we talked about that on the pod this morning.
It's just like, is there any chance that we could see him move back to the outfield at some point in the foreseeable future to allow, first base to open up so they can make some additions there? And that's not in their thinking. It's not in their cards. They haven't even had the conversation so far. So it doesn't sound like that's like part of the offseason plan at all. I mean, we were talking earlier about, look, if you move him to the outfield, then you open up a spot for maybe Christian Walker or Pete Alonso. That's a way to actually really upgrade your offense because those guys are better hitters maybe than like a Santander or a Jurickson Profar. But no, that's not the Phillies' plan. They want to keep Harper at first base. I mean, it's been better on his back and his elbow, and they want to keep him on the field. So while that might give them more flexibility, does not sound like that's going to happen.
And it's kind of echoed everything that we've heard and everything that we've been talking about. Dave Dombrowski said they are in love with his defensive effort at first base.
Yeah.
And like I said this morning, he's putting so much effort into becoming a great first baseman. Obviously a Gold Glove finalist. It seemed like Dave was kind of like, he is a first baseman, and that's what we expected.
So now we just move on to Tuesday, to day two of the full day two of the winter meetings, which, I don't know if there's going to be anything that happens, but we are seeing the market move. The Phillies still want outfield help. That's not the only position they're looking at. They just want to get better offensively overall, improve offensively. And these trade talks may or may not come to fruition this week. If they don't, they're still, having productive conversations that could help them as the offseason progresses. But just stay tuned, because Spencer and I will be back tomorrow with all the latest news and rumors in Phillies land. Thanks a lot for checking us out here on the Phillies Talk podcast.